Do you like Star Trek? Because you like synthesizers and electronic music, I reckon you probably also like science fiction, so I'm betting you have seen at least one episode of Star Trek. One of my favourite features is the replicator. Imagine having a replicator in your studio or your room. Computer, make me a Jupiter 8. Computer, make me a Moog System 55. Computer, make me a Yamaha CS80, but with modern presets. That would be so cool. Now, imagine what would happen to the price of synthesizers if that was a reality. I think that's an interesting subject for discussion. I might try it with a friend of mine down at the pub sometime. There'd be no manufacturing costs, there'd be no storage costs, there'd be no distribution costs, there'd be no wholesaler to pay, there'd be no retailer to take a chunk of the profit. Apart from anything else, the bottom would fall out of the overpriced vintage synth market. But Ian, I hear you cry, we don't have such replicators. But yes, we do. I say to you, if you replace the idea of synth hardware with synth software, then we have replicators. We have soft synths. They have no manufacturing costs, they have no storage costs, they have no distribution costs. There is no wholesaler to pay or retailer, as most sales come directly from the developer. Now, in both cases, there is, of course, an R&D cost, but once that has been covered, how much are soft synths really worth? Now, it is a bit of an impossible question, but I shall attempt to answer it anyway. Now, about a year ago, I made a video asking the question, are synths too expensive? And I was referring to hardware synths. Now, in that video, card up there, link in description, I generally compared the price of original synthesizers with their modern day clones or reissues. So I could roughly say whether modern synths were more expensive than the older ones or not. If you find that an interesting topic of conversation, check out the video. I will say one thing though. Many people, when they compare the price of old synths to new synths, use inflation as a means of calculating the current price. I don't think that's a good or even an accurate yardstick to use to determine the relative cost of an older piece of gear. Check out the video, it's all explained in that. Back to software. Now, since making the hardware video, I wanted to make a follow-up video asking the same question. Are soft synths too expensive? But this wasn't so easy to do. Soft synths really only became possible when computers were powerful enough to handle the processing required. So maybe from the turn of the century onwards. And we don't get vintage soft synths that we lust after. If a piece of music software was deemed good back in the day, it has probably been redeveloped and redesigned. So there's really very little to compare modern day instruments with older ones. Now, back in the day, I reviewed dozens and dozens of pieces of music software. I actually can't remember how much they cost. In any event, I don't think that would be a good comparison. We are living in a technical wonderland of music software. We have the computing power to handle very powerful, very clever, very complex music software. So trying to compare today's music software with software which was developed 20 years ago would be rather unfair. So I have decided to enlist the help of some music software developers. Now, they don't know it, but I'm going to do a little bit of analysis to decide how much they think their software is worth. You may be surprised. So let's start with what I call the perceived value. This is the value that the developer puts the software out at. It is the manufacturer's recommended selling price, a suggested selling price if you like, and probably the price you will pay if the software is not in a sale. Now, this begs the question, where does this price come from in the first place? Now, pricing anything, not just synthesizers, is a little bit of an art form, at least the marketing people would have you believe that. There are psychological selling points which you are probably aware of. It's always $29.99 and not $30, unless if you're in the UK you shop at Marks and Spencer's. But apart from that, where do the initial prices come from? Why charge $29 or rather than $59, $79 or whatever? Well, my theory is fairly simple. I think manufacturers and developers, and this applies to every company in every business, they price goods at the price they think the market will stand. Or, as I like to put it, they charge as much as they think they can get away with. Now, let me give you a for instance. I don't want to pick on any company in particular. Let's say you manufacture television sets, and a television set of a certain size with a certain quality typically sells between £500 and £600, dollars, euros, or whatever. And you develop a new manufacturing process and you think, I could sell this for $200 and still make a shed load of money. So do you put it on the market at $200 and still make a shed load of money? No, you look at what you think the market will stand. If you want to undercut your competitors, you might price it at $450. If it is a high-end piece of gear, you might price it at the high end, $600, so people will realise it is far better quality than existing products and buy yours. But what you don't do is sell it at $200, even though you still make a shed load of money from it. And it is the same with any product, not just synths and software. But let's get back to the synths. Where does that initial price come from? Well, I think it comes from what the developers think they can get away with. They probably look at what's around on the market and price it accordingly. If they are a big brand with a big name and produce good software, I think they are more likely to charge a little bit more for their products than a smaller company. Now, I'm sure they do take R&D costs into consideration. If they produce a really complicated and complex and powerful piece of software, they are very likely going to charge more for it than a simple monosynth. Now, that's just a very basic rule of thumb. It doesn't always follow. But let's get down to some specifics. How much is software really worth? I said I was going to enlist the help of some software developers, so the first one is Arturia. Now, I love Arturia. I love Arturia software. They are also one of the best companies I have found for technical support. This is Arturia's product page, and you can see that one of their flagship products is V Collection 9. Should you buy V Collection 9? Well, if you don't have it already, I would say yes. I made a video about it. Card up there, link in description. V Collection 9 costs €599. This is not a chump change, but for that you get 33 synthesizers. Now, if you do some sums, you will find that works out at just over €18 per synth. So effectively, if you buy this bundle, Arturia is saying these synths are worth €18. So you can buy individual products. I'm not sure if all of these are in version 9, but these ones certainly are. And the prices tend to range from €199, €149, and some of the earlier synths are slightly cheaper at €99. So if we average these out and say that the average piece of software is going to cost around €150, effectively Arturia is saying don't buy 4 of these instruments. If you want to buy 4, we'll give you the other, 29 for nothing. It depends how you want to look at it, but effectively buy the bundle and you get each synth for €18. So to me, it absolutely doesn't make any sense at all to buy individual instruments. Even the cheap ones, if you wanted to buy one at €99, unless that is the absolute only synthesizer from the collection that you want, okay, but otherwise it doesn't make any sense to me to buy 1 or 2 of these instruments. Now, I'm sure Arturia would be very happy if you paid €200 for one of these instruments. However, if you look at the costs involved, does it actually cost Arturia any more to send you 33 instruments than it does to send you one. So although they would be very happy to take your 199 euros for one instrument, it costs them virtually no more at all to sell you the bundle. No manufacturing costs, no storage costs, no distribution costs. This is all profit. So it is in their interest to sell the bundle and to sell the instruments at $18 each. They make a chunk more money for virtually no more extra effort or cost. So let's see if we can do a similar analysis with Native Instruments Komplete 14 bundle. Now, I also made a video about Komplete 14 asking the question, should you buy it or not? Card up there and link in description. Now, I love Native Instruments software, but the company has, shall we say, politely annoyed a massive proportion of their customers. If you want to know why and what I think about it, card up there and link in description. But let's look at one of their bundles. So there are 4 versions of Komplete 14. For this analysis, I'm going to use the standard version. It is almost the same price as Arturia's V Collection, £539, so it makes comparisons a little bit easier. So we can scroll down and you can see the list of goodies that you get in the package, and yes, there are a lot of them. So you can see with the standard edition, you've got 87 instruments and effects. I really just wanted to talk about synthesizers. So doing a quick calculation, I think there are about 59 or maybe 60 synthesizers in this bundle. So if we totally ignore the effects and the expansions, then our £539 gets us 59, maybe 60 instruments. That makes each of them worth just over £9 each. Now, this is not a totally fair comparison because, of course, you get a lot of extras. So if you add in the effects and the expansions, buying this bundle means you are getting each individual piece of software at just over £4 each. Now, in fairness to Arturia, I have to say that a lot of these Native instruments are not perhaps fully fledged instruments. There are a number of Play series instruments which, while they are interesting in their own right, I don't think a comparison between them and one of Arturia's synthesizers is a very fair comparison. So perhaps we could say that you are getting slightly less featured instruments in this bundle. Some of them, at least not all of them, that you do in the Arturia bundle. But £4 each, isn't that a bargain? But of course, you can also buy these individually. So if we look at the individual products, I'm not sure that all of these are in the standard edition, but the price of individual instruments tends to be around £149, some are a little bit less expensive. The expansions, these tend to be around £44. There are 1 or 2 cheaper ones, and some are around £89, but generally you're paying £44 for an expansion. Now, again, I am sure Native Instruments is very happy to take your £150 for an individual instrument or £44 for an expansion. Now, £539 is not a chump change either, but to me it doesn't make sense to buy 1 or maybe 2 or even 3 instruments at £149 or to buy expansions at £44 when you can get the whole lot for just over £4 each. And Native Instruments is obviously very happy to sell you a £149 synthesizer, but they will be even more happier if you pay £539, even though they are discounting their products down to £4. They are making a lot more money for virtually no additional cost. Now, I've used Arturia and Native Instruments as examples, but I'm not picking on them specifically. A lot of companies do bundles where they discount software down to really nice prices. But they can do this because the cost of selling a £500 package is really no more than selling one for $10. So if they can entice you to spend more money, then they are making far more profit. And that, at the end of the day, let's be honest, is the name of the game. Now, there are one or two software companies out there, I believe, who do not discount, or at least they very rarely have a discount sale or discount offer. And I have a lot of respect for these companies. They are saying that our product is worth this amount of money and you are not going to get it any cheaper. In fact, Arturia sometimes does this. You will sometimes see a sale saying, this is the lowest price we will offer this software at. And if you see that, you know there will not be a better deal on Black Friday or further down the road. So that I appreciate. But otherwise, if you followed my logic and reasoning, and please let me know in the comments if you do or do not show me where I have gone wrong. It is just one way of looking at the situation and the cost. But I think it does help put into perspective the value that synth developers themselves put on their products. In one sense, they are trying to make it, well, simply uneconomical to buy a one-off product. Now, given that there's virtually no additional cost in selling you a dozen or 2 dozen or 10 dozen products than it is to sell one product, they really want you to buy the bundles. They really want you to spend more money. There are, of course, exceptions. Smaller companies or companies which release one product at a time, perhaps over a longer time period, will tend to charge a certain price for that piece of software. Now, just about every piece of music software is discounted at some time or another, often during Black Friday, but we have Christmas sales and Easter sales and New Year sales, and sales because there are, well, more than 2 letters in a month. And all these are still valuable income to the company because they have no manufacturing costs, no storage, and all that sort of stuff. So it is essentially all profit. Now, if there are any synth developers out there who want to put me right on any aspect of this analysis, then please let me know. I am open to being corrected. But for the rest of us, what do you think of my analysis? Is this a good analogy? Is it a fair analogy? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I hope it has given a sense of proportion to the cost and value of music software. Maybe it's something you would like to think about the next time you are tempted to pull the trigger on that really desirable piece of slightly expensive music software. If you've enjoyed this video, then please do subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. Thank you, so you get notified of new videos as soon as I post them, and do click the big thumb because that really helps as well. And if you have enjoyed this video, I think you might enjoy these videos as well. As always, I really do appreciate you spending time with me watching my videos, so for that, thank you very much indeed. I will see you again very soon in the next one.